Hello and welcome to another one of our Radio Times Doctor Who Series 11 previews, Episode 2, I think, also known as Doctor Who.
No, it's
Episode
not.
2. It's definitely called that because I am Hugh Fullerton.
I'm Sarah Doran and I still fundamentally object to calling this Doctor Who.
Listen, we'll talk about it later. We won't. It's definitely called Doctor Who.
It makes it sound like I'm your companion, Hugh.
Right, or rather,
And it's
we're
Sarah-
part of my Tardis team.
It's Sarah Kate, not Sarah Jane, even though I am a journalist.
Yeah.
Did you say Tardis Team?
I did say Tardis Team. You picked up on my very subtle link because that's what we're talking about this week. We've already talked about Jodie Whittaker's new Doctor, the 13th Doctor, first female Doctor, very exciting. And now we're talking about the people travelling with her, who are traditionally the Doctor's sort of pals who travel around in the TARDIS, are called companions. Not really sure when that sort of started, but it's sort of unofficial, as in it's outside the show a bit. But nowadays we're calling these three companions the Tardis Team, or the Doctor's friends.
I'm so glad they went with Tardis Team, because isn't Time Team a thing? It was like a TV show or something like that.
Yeah, this might be a little cultural
This might
difference.
be why.
Time Team is a
Maybe
massive
this is
thing
it.
here. Maybe. I mean, it's maybe they wanted to do something alliterative, but yeah.
TT,
the
Tardis
TT.
Team.
So on the Tardis Team.
For 13.
Tardis Team 413.
Or 13's Tardis Team.
There we go.
TTT.
Get
Sorry,
it
I'm
on
going to
your
stop and
t-shirts.
let Hugh get to the point now.
The point that I was going for was that we are welcoming to the Doctor Who Whoniverse Bradley Walsh as Graham O'Brien, Mandip Gill as Yasmin Khan, and Tosin Cole as Ryan Sinclair. And also Sharon D. Clark is playing a character called Mary, although she's not part of the core group, I don't think.
She's not with the core four, but she was announced at the same time. I find it
Yes.
so strange that she's kind of disappeared off the radar. Though I did love when she did that BBC podcast with Lee Mack. Wasn't it BBC podcast, I think?
Or a radio show or something.
It was a radio show podcast anyway. And then Lee Mack let slip that he was going to be a guest star of this series.
Yeah, he did, because,
And then-
because she talked about it and he
Yeah.
assumed it was then fine, but she'd
Yeah.
already been announced.
Yeah. But yes, we haven't heard much about her. But the thing I love about Sharon D. Clark, so I'm just going to give her a little bit of love here.
This will be the Sharon D. Clark hour.
Yeah, is that she was at Eurovision. So, you know, if Doctor Who does not go to the Eurovision this year, I'm going to be desperately disappointed.
Which one would you want them to travel to?
Oh, they'd have to go to the Brighton Dome when ABBA won with Waterloo. And
Water Who.
Stop stealing my jokes before I can make them. But yeah, I'd love to see Water Who. I was defeated. You won the Time War.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, yeah.
You've been working on this one. You've been working on this pitch for Chris Chibnall for weeks.
Can you hear the drums, Chris Nando?
Can you hear? Yeah, the sound of drums.
The sound of drums.
Oh man,
See?
it all fits.
It all fits.
I kind of want to do an ABBA, maybe do an episode of ABBA and Doctor Who in a future week.
Back to the Time Team.
Back to the
Not
Time Team. Tony Robinson.
Tony Robinson and the Time Team. The Tardis Team.
Yes. We should probably kick off with someone who was the first kind of rumoured and also kind of had everyone scratching their heads a bit. Bradley Walsh.
I laughed. And that's terrible. No, apologies, Bradley. But I just kind of couldn't believe that the host of The Chase was going to be joining Doctor Who. So I actually wrote this off when we saw this headline. I said, there's no way that's true. That's just a rumour someone's made up. This is the Chris Marshall thing all over again. No way is that going to happen.
And then it did.
Look how wrong I was.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, obviously, Bradley Walsh has done quite a lot of acting. He's
been
in loads of stuff.
And he's also been in the Whoniverse before.
Yeah, he was in the Sarah Jane Adventures, which is a spin-off which starred Elizabeth Sladen. They actually filmed it in my school, and I was supposed to be in that episode, but sadly missed out, so I didn't get to meet Bradley then.
Oh no, Hugh.
I know. He was an evil clown.
I mean, I've heard this story a million times, but tell the listeners why you missed out.
Oh, it's not that exciting. I had to do exams. So they got some other... The really gutting thing was, though, that the other kids who were in it got lines and stuff. That was what I was supposed to do. So I would have been in the official Whoniverse.
But here's the thing. You stayed in school, you did your exams, you became the sci-fi editor at radiotimes.com, and now you get paid to talk about Doctor Who.
That's true.
The moral of this story is Hugh didn't get to be in the Sarah Jane Adventures, but he did get to go on the set of Doctor Who
That's
instead.
true. And you know what? That's not too bad, is it? But yeah, so for most people, I don't know if anyone's listening who's maybe not familiar with the UK TV scene, The Chase is a game show, kind of a general knowledge-y sort of thing, which Bradley Walsh has hosted.
A brilliant quiz.
It's an amazing show.
It's so good.
It's so addictive. He's been doing that since about 2009, I think, quite a long time. And he does some other shows like Cash Trapped and some other game shows, did Wheel of Fortune at some point.
And he was quite famously in one of the UK's biggest soap operas, Coronation Street, which is
Exactly.
where I first encountered him many years ago. I think it was Danny Baldwin was his character, and he had a full family and whatever, and he was just like a bit of a jack of all trades, Jack
Yeah.
the lad on the street, which again is why I couldn't really see him in this role.
Yeah, but then once he was announced, like officially, we sort of started to think about it and look into it a bit more. And it's interesting because he's worked with Chris Chibnall, the new Doctor Who boss, before. He was the lead, I think, in Law and Order UK.
Yeah, he was
the main
quite
detective.
serious drama, that one as well.
Yeah, and he's been in loads of other kind of reasonably serious dramas. And apparently they kind of came to him, I think they had him in mind for the role. So they always had this kind of slightly older companion figure in mind. And Bradley Walsh was the man for the job. And now we've learned a little bit about Graham since, who is apparently, he's a bit more liable to put his feet up and chill out than, go and save the world. He kind of, maybe they give the impression he's a bit of a reluctant hero. Like he sort of gets pulled in. It's a bit of a mystery how they all end up with the Doctor at the moment. But also it's interesting because he's probably going to bring in a completely different audience to Doctor Who. I mean, we've talked about in last week's episode, Jodie Whittaker, bringing in, young women and girls maybe. I feel like Bradley Walsh might bring in the kind of ITV crowd.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, people who are big fans of The Chase absolutely love him. He's got a huge audience online. He does his Bradders Bangers on Instagram, which if you haven't checked out, I absolutely urge you to go and look at. And he seems to have this really great relationship, which we talked about in our last episode about Jodie Whittaker. He seems to have this great relationship with Jodie when they went to BAFTA and they had such a laugh.
Yeah.
And, like we said before, we don't really know much about his character, but if Bradley's real life character informs Graham in any way, I think we might be in for a treat.
100%, yeah. It's really nice to see him in it, actually, because it turns out he was a fan of Doctor Who when he was a little kid. He was watching the original, William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, the Peter Cushing film. He said he's like queued around the block to get into it. He had a little toy Dalek, all this stuff. And it's nice to see him kind of come into it. And I was actually surprised by how massively enthusiastic he was, because I spoke to him for a Radio Times feature about the series. And
have we mentioned that Hugh wrote a really big Radio Times feature? If you're listening to our last episode, you might know he wrote the one that was on the cover of Radio Times.
Yeah, it was really lucky. It was a really, really fun thing to get to do. And Bradley couldn't have been nicer with his time, genuinely. He was such a nice guy. I sound like one of those...
You're on first name terms with Bradley.
Oh, don't. He won't remember who I am.
Mr. Walsh to you.
Mr. Walsh. Oh, I'm sorry. We should probably talk about some of the others, though, shouldn't we?
Yeah, because you... no, jokes aside, you have actually met them all.
Yes.
So you were down on set in Cardiff, and
yes.
I think we talked about last time, you've seen their dynamic is really great. So let's chat about someone I'm very excited about, Mandip Gill.
Yes. So I interviewed her in Cardiff for the same feature, and she was so much fun. She was just really funny, really imaginative, really friendly, really nice. And we haven't seen too much of her character. We haven't actually seen that much of any of the Tardis team, actually, because there's been trailers and stuff. We haven't even heard them speak.
So she plays Yaz.
She plays Yaz, Yasmin Yaz Khan. And I think the thing we know about her is that she really looks up to Jodie's Doctor. I think she's supposed to be in her early to mid-20s. Not sure what she does, not sure whether she, has a cool job, like Martha was a doctor, Rose worked in a shop. Like sometimes these sort of things inform it. Bill was a student. But we haven't heard her speak either because she has a similar accent to Jodie, sort of a northern accent.
Fans of Hollyoaks will know her quite well. She was Phoebe McQueen.
With Tosin Cole, actually.
Exactly.
Who's in Hollyoaks too.
But she had quite a thick accent on Hollyoaks.
Oh, did she?
It was great. Yeah, no, it was really, really good. Really nice accent.
No, she was a real laugh. She had loads of funny stories about, she basically said that the thing she was most worried about was her run. Because she said, obviously, in life, you don't actually ever see yourself running. Because you're only just running. And then she watched herself back on the tape, and she was like, oh, God, I didn't think I looked like that. Like, I look so weird. I'll have to warn my friends off watching it. And then she said, by about the last episode in the series, she feels like she really nailed the running away from monsters thing.
That was what she was most excited about, wasn't it? That she
running away from monsters, yeah. She said that she's been in all sorts of things. She's been in Love, Lies and Records as well as Hollyoaks and some quite serious dramas. And she said, actually, I've done loads of serious dramas. I want to have some fun. I want to do a job that's a laugh, that, I can run away from monsters and shout and, save the world. I just want to do that. And I think that's really cool because usually the stereotype is of actors doing the big sci-fi franchises to like make some money or whatever, and then they get to do their art. You know, they get to go and tread the boards at the Globe.
Do
or
their
something.
King Lear.
Yeah, do their Lear, exactly. Whereas she seems to be kind of the other way around. You know, like she's done a lot of, and same with Jodie actually. You know, they both said they've done a lot of serious stuff. Now they want to do something fun. And maybe, to be honest, I might be overreaching here, and it might not be my place to talk about it too much, but maybe that says something about the roles that women get in acting.
Yeah.
Like they tend to be the kind of harrowing roles, almost like supportive figure. Like they don't get to be the action heroes, or at least the big sci-fi heroes that often. So it's more of a novelty.
Yeah,
Do you know
it's
what I mean?
true. Like, you don't get that many Jessica Joneses
No.
or like Rey in Star Wars.
I mean, definitely more than you would have even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like it's changing a lot. But especially in TV, I reckon British TV, you're not going to get those kind of, unless you're like a maverick cop or something.
Well, you get your like Dr. Foster, don't you?
Yes.
But they're kind of few and far between.
100%. And Dr. Foster is still quite a serious thing, isn't it?
And you get your Happy Valley, your Sarah Lancashire. But yeah, no, you're right. They are serious dramas. There's no kind of fun, playing about sci-fi kind of thing. I think like you can't really compare it to it, because the only thing I can think of that has like really fun female kind of characters who are punchy and a little bit of something to them is probably Derry Girls. But that's a
comedy,
Channel 4 comedy. This is not like tea time BBC family sci-fi. You don't see the women as much, and we've seen it like with the companions throughout the years. Definitely the likes of Amy Pond.
Yes.
But like we say, Clara. So it probably is, like, for someone like Mandip, a really great opportunity to kind of jump in and have a bit of fun.
100%. And I think it's a lovely attitude. I think like she was really nice. Like I can't say enough nice things about her.
You talked about how people like do their Lear and whatever, and then do the sci-fi for a bit of fun. I mean, Tosin Cole, is it Tosin? I feel like I'm pronouncing his name wrong.
I think it's Tosin.
And I really apologise. Not Tosin, Tosin. Or the other way around, whichever. Please feel free to scream at me.
Please write in.
Please feel free to scream at me in the comments about this, about how I need some language lessons. Somebody has before. But he's done his sci-fi. He's done Star Wars.
He did do Star Wars. He was in The Force Awakens as, I think he was a Rebel X-Wing pilot or a Resistance X-Wing pilot. And I asked him about that, and he basically said the secrecy on that was way bigger than Doctor Who, because Doctor Who is obviously stereotypically really like secret. But with Star Wars, I think he had like an app. He got his scripts on an app, and it then deleted the scripts after he'd read them or something. So Doctor Who isn't quite that bad. But yeah, no, he's definitely got a bit of a sci-fi pedigree. The funny thing about him is, though, he's quite chilled out, I'd say. Like, he seemed quite unfazed by all of it. He said that might change as he kind of can't go to the shops in his flip-flops anymore, But he said he was quite like chilled out when he got the part. Like Mandip was, oh my God, I was so stressed about this audition, I really wanted it. And he was like, yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, he seemed quite chilled about it. This might be kind of his exterior, though, his cool exterior.
We don't know much about Ryan, do we?
He's probably the one we know least about, I think, because we've heard a little bit about Graham, we've heard a little bit about Yaz. We haven't really heard much about Ryan or how he connects to them. I think it's interesting. I'm interested to see how they all know each other, to be honest. I was kind of assuming they know each other already, the three of them, for her to pick them up, because otherwise it's going to be quite a lot of introductions, isn't it?
Yeah, because like with Mickey and Rose, they knew each other.
Amy and Rory knew
each other.
Bill and Nardole didn't, but then Nardole already travelled with the Doctor, if that makes sense. So Bill was just kind of added in. Yeah,
I'll be interested to see if they have connections and how those connections kind of bring them all together. I mean, what we do know from it is that it's kind of set in Sheffield initially, right?
Yeah, but I think that's been confirmed. It was rumoured for quite a while, and now I think we've seen them with like Sheffield newspapers and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting. I think that's where Chris Chibnall went to university, I want to say.
Oh, cool.
So maybe that's what inspired him. And they redressed bits of Cardiff to be like visiting Sheffield. So I think I've read somewhere that Bradley Walsh's character is a London transplant. That makes sense. Like, he grew up in London, lived in London, now he's moved to Sheffield.
So keeping the connection to the south.
Exactly. And I think the other two are maybe locals. I don't know.
I'm quite looking forward to it actually going north.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, really good fun.
I spoke to someone a while ago about how sort of focused on London Doctor Who is, which is quite odd when you consider. I mean, obviously it's because that's the bigger city in the UK, and it's the one, especially abroad, people are most familiar with.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see, the Doctor touring the regions a bit more, as it were.
The regions.
It's a bit of that's a little bit of an
other parts of the UK here.
It's a bit of an in joke that because
how would you feel if I called Wales a region?
I'd be very upset. No, it was a reason that this is so nerdy. Can I say something really nerdy? The reason I said that is that the reason they didn't let David Tennant keep his Scottish accent to be the 10th Doctor is because Christopher Eccleston had been Northern, and they said they didn't want to sound like they were touring the regions. So that's a little bit of an in-joke for me.
Oh, okay. All right.
I swear.
That explains
Although they
it.
seem to have gotten rid of that now because they just had a Scottish Doctor, and now they're going to have a Northern one. So
The Yorkshire, isn't it? this
Yorkshire,
time round?
yeah. So she's Yorkshire. So I don't know whether they're going to explain that at all. I mean, they never really bother. There's never really need to.
I think what's going to be really nice, though, it's going to be a really diverse TARDIS team. You're going to have, two women, 2 men.
Yeah.
In a
And
team before.
all different ages.
All different ages, different ethnicities, different backgrounds,
Yeah.
possibly different accents.
Yeah.
I think it's going to make it really interesting.
I think they've sort of said the point of that is they want everyone to be able to see themselves in this new TARDIS team, whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, whether you're a bit older, whether you're younger, whether you're from a different background. You kind of can find something in that.
Yeah.
And I think that's really nice. I mean, I wonder what it will be like to have that many companions. We've had sort of teams before. Like we had like Jack and Rose and, like Rory and Amy and all that, Nardole and Bill. We've not really had 3 for quite a long time. Obviously, the original Doctor Who had 3 people. It's just going to be a very different dynamic. It probably makes it easier to have, not to get too technical, but A and B stories. The Doctor and someone's doing one thing, and then like
the other
others,
2 are off doing something else.
Yeah, it probably makes it easier. And the episodes were a little bit longer this year, so that might kind of lend itself to it. I think narratively it could create some interesting things. But yeah, like we say, it's just everyone can see themselves in this group, and I think that's pretty cool.
Well, we want to know if you can see yourself in this group. Are you excited to have like multiple companions this year? Do you like the name TARDIS Team? Have you come up with your own name for the group that will be travelling around through space and time? As I've mentioned, you can leave us a comment down below. And if you've enjoyed the podcast, don't forget to give us a thumbs up here on YouTube and to subscribe to radiotimes.com on YouTube to make sure you keep up with all the latest episodes, all the Doctor Who gossip that we get and share, and lots of other exciting video content.
And also you can check out more Doctor Who stuff, yes, yet more Doctor Who stuff on radiotimes.com itself, including interviews with all the people we've talked about today and lots of other fun, speculative and, teasy things about Series 11.
You can join us soon, of course, for our next adventure in space and time, when I think we're going to delve a little bit more into the world of new Doctor Who showrunner Chris Chibnall.
There's a little tease for you.
So do be sure to stay tuned for that. But until then, I am Sarah.
I am Hugh.
And we've loved speaking with you, or well, at you, around you, about Doctor Who.
Towards you.
Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.